give me one shot here on a blue chip stock, believe me, Kevin, the only problem you're gonna have is that you didn't buy more.
Nobody knows if the stock is gonna go up, down, sideways, or in circles.
What's going on, NBA draft fans? Your boys are back. The Wolves of Wall Street, your favorite draft analysts. It's the NBA Draft Show on the No Ceilings NBA podcast feed. My name's Corey Tulliba. I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Albert Garbage Time Gimp. Albert, what's going on, my man?
Oh, a lot's going on, dude. It's raining in Los Angeles. Pedro Pascal just got cast as Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four movie. No one
Interesting.
knew that. I know, that's an interesting one. And we're going to talk about basketball today, and that's really fun and really exciting for us. And I'm ready to rock. And we've got two guys, Corey, that obviously you're going to do your little intro. I'm just excited to talk about these guys. I'm excited to be in the season that we're in, and I'm feeling good, feeling nostalgic, feeling excited, feeling a lot of different things, but I'm ready to rock.
Yeah, I'm feeling good too. I mean, we're like finally getting into some meaningful college games. The two guys that we're breaking down today, the G League Ignite's Tyler Smith and Mega's Nikola Topic, are two guys that have actually played like a good amount of games. So we actually have a decent amount of film on them. I mean, obviously it's going to be a long season, and, we're going to monitor their improvements from, now through the rest of the season. But like, we do have film to see how they have been producing more than some of the college guys. But the college stuff's coming. And, since we're getting real film and mock drafts and big boards are coming out, No Ceilings, we put out a big board recently ourselves, right? It feels right that we can kind of get back into the flow and the format a little bit, right? So we're going to start off with the G League Ignites Tyler Smith. He is a forward. He's 6'9", 224, according to the Ignite website, averaging 12.1 points, 4.3 rebounds, 1.1 assists, 1.1 steals, and 2 blocks on 54.1, 55, 53.3 shooting splits. Now, he's played, I believe, 8 games, which includes the 2 games against Perth, 3 games in the Ignite regular G League season, and then 3 games in the Intercontinental Cup, like the FIBA overseas thing. So I had to go in and actually do some math for Tyler Smith's stats. I couldn't just go to Synergy because they're not all together. So pretty good shooting splits outside of the free throw percentage, right? Good numbers all around. Right now, No Ceilings, he came in at 31 on the No Ceilings big board, 28 on the Athletics big board, 42 at ESPN, and then 51 at Bleacher Report. So his IPO stock price is 38. So Albert, I ask you, is Tyler Smith's stock too high, too low, or just right at 38?
At this point in the draft cycle, I hesitate to say that anybody is too high or too low or whatever, just because it's so damn early, right? It really is so early, Corey. But I'm still going to answer the question. I'm a professional. You gave me a damn question. I'm going to answer it. I'm an adult. Corey, you know how I pre-gamed for this pod today? I had a handful of extra toasty Cheez-Its is what I did. I'm that guy. So Tyler Smith, I think right now he's just right. I think at this point in the draft cycle, I think 38 is pretty fair in my opinion. I don't think it's crazy high. Don't think it's crazy low. Currently on my draft board, I have him at 30, I believe, or 29. I have him exactly at 29. So 29, 38, potato, we're good. I think it's a totally fair number to be at.
I love it. I have him a little bit higher on my personal board. I think I'm at 20 or 21. Okay. Tyler Smith's a guy who I liked a lot coming into the year. He was highly ranked before he went over to the Overtime Elite. And I got to see him live a couple of times last year with the Overtime Elite. He came to New Jersey, and I saw him play in actual gameplay in New Jersey. Then I saw him play at the Pro Day down in Atlanta at the facility. And I just seeing him in person, he's big. he looks big. Like I was actually a little surprised when he was listed at 6'9" on the G League's website, because I actually thought that he was like legit like 6'10" when I saw him in person. But he's just super fluid, like with like a pretty stroke. Like he moves really well. And I think that it was out of sight, out of mind, him being down in the overtime elite program. So and I think the same thing's kind of going to happen here with the Ignite. We see that every year, right? Like people get excited about the Ignite in the beginning of the season, but their season stretches on. Nothing's televised. We're not getting Kansas, Kentucky kind of hype from an Ignite game from here on out. So I think he's going to suffer. All of the Ignite prospects might suffer a little bit from that overall, but I really like his game, and I'm excited to break it down, because I think that he's played really well early on in the year. So I'm definitely excited to actually get into his game and talk about him as a prospect.
Yeah, Corey, me too. I am excited. Love everything that you said. And you're right. Not a lot of people are clamoring to watch them play the Maine Lobsters or the Ontario Clippers, right? Like I get it. And there will be that rough patch in the season, but Corey, like you said, the skill set with this guy is really interesting. And I love the point that you made that he definitely looks a lot taller than 6'9", in my opinion, too. Like one of the things that I wrote in my notes is like, you'll be at a bar at a club and you find a guy that's a little handsy. You call him out like, this guy's kind of handsy, kind of a pervert over here. Keep your eye on him. Tyler Smith is he's limsy, dude. This guy's got just crazy long arms, crazy long legs. He's the Walmart slender man. He's not Victor Wembanyama, but he is some variant of that. He's crazy, crazy long, but also skilled. And obviously we're going to get into his game, but there's a lot to like, and I think he's a guy that we're going to have to, as you mentioned, right, kind of be on ourselves to monitor his game throughout the season because of the situation he's in.
Yeah. Normally I ask you where we should start with a player, but I think it's, for Tyler Smith, it's pretty easy because his game is pretty simple, right? Yes. Like, and I think that is a feature, right? Like, I think the simplicity in his role is what ultimately is going to help him climb on boards, because people are going to be like, okay, I know what this guy is. I know what he can be. And, to start it out, like at 6'9", fluid jumper, man. Like this kid, he can shoot the rock. It's a pretty repeatable, high arc, soft ball. Like I like it. I think this kid is going to be a shooter in the league. I think that is going to translate. Like I have no real qualms about him as a shooter.
Yeah, no, Corey, I'm 100% with you. I'm sorry, I just got a phone call, but no, I'm with you, dude. He's a guy that what I wrote in my notes here, he just looks like he's supposed to be a shooter with the way that his form looks very natural, looks very like, yeah, this is what he does. First thing that I wrote in my notes, gives me a lot of CJ Miles vibes, man. Had to put that in there because you see it, right? Lefty shooter, long and lanky, really fluid looking jump shot. But it's hard not to start with the jumper because he makes it look so damn easy and so natural, and he gets it up there pretty quick. Love the motion. As we've mentioned, right? Really long too, which helps as well. Yeah, I think there's a lot to like. And I think, as you mentioned, Corey, his game is a little simple. It's simplified, and what they ask him to do is pretty simple too. But it's a really important aspect of not just his game, but, obviously with the NBA, right? Like him being a 6'9", 6'10" guy, who knows, maybe even taller when everything's said and done. But being able to have that type of range and to get it off as easily as he does, I think is going to make him a really desirable prospect to a lot of NBA front offices.
Yeah, because he's going to play a role. He's not going to be one of these guys that comes in right away and, is looked upon to save a franchise. He's going to be a guy who teams ask to, play off of the star players and like set screens. And like, as we're going to see on this clip here, it's like, he's a guy who could pick and pop. Now he's going to miss this jumper, but like, he's not missing for any other reason that sometimes you miss jump shots. Like, Steph Curry misses jump shots. Like, it's a good shot for him. Pick and pop where he's pretty open from the wing. Like he's going to make that shot too. So and it looks pretty. It looks repeatable. There's nothing that you're like, if you would have done this, maybe the shot goes in, right? Like it's he just missed. So I think when it comes to his shooting, he's not like versatile in the way that like Steph can run around a million screens, or Ray Allen was able to run around screens or whatever. But like he also like is comfortable hitting a shot like this, where we're pulling up a clip where like he's going to hit a trail three, right? Like a little bit of momentum, steps up, bang, like pretty smooth. Like he's comfortable shooting in a lot of different situations, and whether that's spotting up or picking and popping or coming out and trailing and running out in transition. Like I think he's got that, and I think there's enough versatility there from like the forward spot, because I think that's what he is. Like I think he's like a true four, and I think we'll talk later, maybe more on defense, of wondering, can he play any other positions? But like offensively, that true four spot, I don't think it's going to hamper him that it's like, oh, he can only play one spot, because ultimately he can play with a bunch of different fives because he can space the floor and do some other stuff.
No, Corey, I 100% agree. Also, like the the clip that you're playing right now, this was early on in the game, but they had just hit a 3-2, and I remember listening to the telecast. They're like, "Oh, look at the three," and then he just walks down and hits this nice trail three, right? So, small stuff like that, I care too, right? Like just he's playing in the moment, not afraid to kind of go back and forth with whoever. But I mean, his shooting profile is pretty simple, Corey. He's not like a big off the dribble guy, as you mentioned, right? Not someone who's gonna.
No.
He's kind of a safety valve is what he is, and that's a pretty awesome thing to have from your four, right? He's a guy that is going to space and create a lot of space did I just say space? I'm
Jordan Spaeth.
I'm in my Mike Tyson bag today, but like he's going to offer that, and it's going to be great. And sometimes having a simplified role is not a bad thing. And yeah, I just like the shooting gravity is going to be real with him, I think, even from day one. And now, obviously, he is a little raw in different areas, and there's still a lot of room for him to grow. But if we're talking specifically just about the shooting, it's hard not to get excited about a guy of his size that can get it off as easily as he does, and he's going to make a ton of them too. So, a big weapon, in my opinion.
Yeah, and right now, like we went over the numbers earlier, he's at 55%. I don't think it's going to stay there by any stretch of the imagination, but that'll level out. Maybe his free throw percentage levels out a little bit too. But what I like about him is like back to the simplicity. He's not going to put the ball on the deck and do a ton, but like I love this shot. 2 dribble pull up. Keep it simple. Get to your spot. He likes the elbows, right? And like you're tall, you have a high release, you got a smaller guy on you, like take advantage and pull it from the elbow. Like that's fine. Like let's explore the studio space a little bit. I like this. Nothing too crazy. Keep it simple. And I think that simplicity is why he's been like arguably the Ignite's best player so far. Because he knows what he's good at and he doesn't stray too far away from it.
And Corey, I think I know we're kind of nailing this point home right now, but that simplicity stuff, like I think that's valuable. You can't have 12 guys on your roster that are doing a million different things. Ideally, you need guys to fit, right? You need guys to play alongside guys who are maybe a little bit more capable and a little bit more dynamic on the offensive side of the ball. But once again, like the positional value that you get from a 6'9", 6'10" guy that could shoot it like this. And as you mentioned, Corey, like you like guys that I think historically, Corey, for both of us, we've liked guys that kind of play within themselves. He's never going to give you too many problems of like, I doubt that any coach is going to watch and be like, he's doing too much. Like, I think he's a guy that's very simple, and he knows that his game is simple, and he's okay living in that space. And recently I was listening to a pod, actually just today, right? Doc Rivers is on the Bill Simmons pod, and he's talking about guys like Tobias Harris, guys like Ray Allen, guys that he's coached before that, at different times in their careers were obviously number one options or like, really high volume-ish type of guys. But, you need guys on your team that are willing to buy in to be the third guy, to be the fourth guy. And I think the profile that we're seeing here with Tyler Smith is I think he's going to be able to offer a lot as like a third or fourth guy. And, guys that are third or fourth guys that can shoot it like this generally go pretty high in the draft, in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed. Like, I mean, look, if he keeps shooting it like this, like he's arguably going to be a lottery pick. I mean, look, there's been a lot of like iffy stuff going on with the top of the lottery anyway. So right now it seems like anybody is potentially, going to be like a lottery pick up there. But Tyler Smith definitely has the ability, just great measurables. Little one dribble pull up here, follows the miss, still playing within himself, just stuff that you love to see. But teams are going to like it. You can trust a guy as a coach who, is like able to do the things that you ask of him, and you don't have to worry that he's going to go break out of the offense. Now, I think that he's like also got the versatility in this way that, you could play him as a screener and use him in DHOs, and, he's got touch. He can finish with both hands. So when we talk about the finishing at the rim, like there's a lot of finesse stuff that I really like. You're not going to give it to him on the block necessarily and tell him to go post and, play like a big like that. But like, I think some of this modern stuff, like we see here in this quick action, where he's going to give a little pitch and then roll right away and knock down a floater. Like this is NBA level stuff, man. Like this is role player stuff that makes, the job of the guard a lot easier when you can be a release valve like this.
I mean, Corey, a lot of what you talked about, even with a guy like Derek Lively last year, right? And then he ends up in a situation with the Mavs where his role is very simple. What they ask him to do is not complicated at all, and yet he's offering really good value to that team, right? And with a guy like Tyler Smith, I mean, first off, this clip that you're playing, I would probably watch this clip like 50 times just because that right hand little floater there is
because he's a lefty.
Exactly, because he's a lefty, but also it's so competent and it's so functional and coordinated, and you're just like
confident.
Exactly, like kind of Kyrie-esque, right? Playing with his offhand. And so I imagine though that Tyler Smith, like he probably shoots with his left hand, but like in real life, he probably uses a fork with his right hand and stuff like that. One of those guys, like a Phil Mickelson type of guy. Right. But I think he's a really interesting player because of this type of role, right? He's going to be a roller. He's going to be a pick and pop guy. And also like not just the finesse touches though, but he's also athletic enough and long enough to actually put someone on a poster. Not that he's going to be like doing that regularly, but he can go up pretty strong, be athletic, and finish with strength at the rim too. So when we start thinking about his outlook and the type of role that he plays, this is really interesting. And look at that one. That's a nice one. It's unfortunate who it happened on, but
friend of the program.
Friend of the program. But that's a really nice, strong finish. And so once again, this is a simple role. This is a really nice display of that role, and simple is not bad. Simple is good. This is good.
Simple is good. Like you said, like this is fluid, man. On Taylor Hendricks, really good shot blocker. I mean, Taylor will live here. He had a great game, and Salt Lake City won this game by about 1,000 points. So we'll forget the poster dunk outside of maybe this specific episode, but he's got some bounce. All right, so you could put him in pick and roll. You can let him be a guy who is going to finish in the dunker spot. So, like, he can kind of space the floor with the jumper, which we saw, but then he could also kind of hang around the baseline and, roll to the rim. And all right, like, guards penetrating, throw it up, let me go get it, right? So he has some athleticism. He is not Josh Smith. Right, but he's a good athlete. He can get up. He's got a good amount of dunks already, and this is all stuff in the half court. But I like him out in transition too. Like that's where you really see how fluid he is. And here on this clip, we're gonna see him, kind of running to the rim, going down the pipe, uncontested. That's that G League defense that everybody loves.
World renowned.
World renowned. Everyone knows the G League is known for their tough physical defense and rim protection. So, gets down the floor, hustle play, right? There's a lot of possessions where he's the first guy down the floor, and then he can also, kind of fill the wing and be really fluid there too. So, on this possession, we'll see here. This one is a much closer game. Nice little like baby euro, like not quite full euro, but like avoids the defender at the block with some nifty footwork. So when you got Ron Holland and Tyler Smith running a 2-on-1, it's a pretty good duo to be running a 2-on-1.
No, for sure. Corey, the first time I saw this play, I honestly thought he traveled. I thought it was like a weird, like it almost looked like a glitch in the Matrix. It was like a really strange kind of duck under Euro step type of thing. But I mean, looks good. Looks good. No, it
Yeah,
looks
he ducked
nice.
under.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but good job. But no, but you're right. The way that he runs out in transition, the type of threat that he is out there, and as you mentioned, the fluidity is there. Like he could really run. Like he's not like one of these like super long-legged guys that look awkward when they're running, like weird gait and stuff like that.
Right.
But natural runner, natural mover on the floor. And something that I wanted to add with that type of movement stuff with him, Corey, is I thought he showed really good activity when he was on the floor. I thought, although his role is simple, he always stayed active, stayed involved, good focus. One of these guys that isn't just going to like sit in the corner and be like mope about being a corner guy. He's like, oh, yeah, I'll sit in the corner. But as you mentioned, Corey, I could be in the dunker spot. I can make nice cuts to the basket. I can go and screen for somebody, like just very involved. And I think that's a good sign from one of these younger guys that, who isn't going to be like a number one option. I think he understands his role and he's like not going to cry about it. He's very cool with the role that he's in, and he's going to stay active and focused and just a part of the action. And I think that's an underrated aspect sometimes of when we do these evaluations.
Yeah, and he's finding success in the role too. So, it's a little bit easier to want to play it when you're finding success in it. But I think I'd attribute that activity to some of the overtime coaching. I mean, maybe he's just wired that way, but I know when I went to see the game in person and I was on the floor and like those overtime coaches, like I know the games can get very up and down and very like sloppy looking, but the coaches are still coaching these guys to like, and are still looking at certain things, and they're still, harping on them and yelling at them for missing rotations or getting lazy and not moving. Like, so I know it's ugly sometimes, but when I saw it in person up close for the first time, I was like, oh, these guys are, they're learning stuff, even if, sometimes they're beating up on lesser talent or whatever, because the teams aren't always like equal at talent level. They're still at least learning the stuff in practice and in training and doing the right things. And I think we're seeing that. A lot of the overtime guys have translated into the league. I think Tyler Smith is going to be one of those guys too. Now, I talked about he's not Josh Smith. For as fluid as he is, I do think on both ends, he needs, to get stronger, right? Like here, and look, Alex Sarr, we did an entire breakdown on him. He's potential number one pick. He's a great shot blocker and rim protector. He's got two opportunities here, and Sarr is not like a strong guy himself, and he just kind of goes up soft. So I do think that there is room for improvement in that aspect near the rim. I think that'll ultimately help him. He's finishing efficiently. He's been very efficient in his 8 games, but we're looking at areas where these guys can improve. And I think some extra strength it'll make him a little bit more explosive to a guy who's already a good athlete. And then also, it'll help him body up on that offensive rebound, dip a shoulder in, and maybe create a little separation so he can comfortably go up against length.
Yeah, Corey, I agree. The strength is something that he's going to work on. Also, for what we said about his fluidity, there also is some clunkiness to him. Like I don't want to kind of hide that. There, especially we'll get to the defense, but there are some things with his feet that I think at times can be a little bit clunky. But overall running and that type of stuff is good. Just it's stuff that he's going to work out, but also he's young, right? Like that's the type of stuff that kind of changes over time as you become a grown ass adult. So I think there's definitely areas of improvement, but on both ends, I think the strength and a little bit of the clunkiness, I think, needs to be worked out for sure.
For sure. Let's talk about the defense now. I don't think we really need to talk much about the passing because there's not a whole lot that he's shown.
Won't be his role either. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it will be interesting to see if he can, maybe make some short roll passes, stuff like that. But he's ultimately right now, he's a play finisher rather than anybody who's going to make plays for others. So defensively, where are you at overall with his man and his team defense?
I thought it was a little hot and cold. And the reason why I say hot and cold is because I think it's hot when you see the flashes. right? And I don't mean hot and cold because there was like a level. I actually think it wasn't very consistent defensively, right? But the flashes are there in terms of some of the rim protection stuff. Like we mentioned on offense, like he can jump really high, or not really, but he could jump high. And he's really, really long. And
He's
some
got
of
good timing.
exactly. Some of the timing with him was really great. There's a block that he had on Taylor Hendricks that was just kind of jaw dropping and really, really impressive to watch. But even the clip that you're playing here, Corey, like the way that he kind of baits it and takes his time and, times everything perfectly, it's good stuff, right? But then at the same time, as I mentioned just a couple seconds ago, I felt like I thought his feet were a little slow, in my opinion. I thought sometimes he had trouble staying in front of his man, and he's one of these long-legged guys, right? And sometimes with the long-legged guys, their feet can kind of get caught under them, and it's not as easy for them to move laterally and to stay in front of smaller guards. And so there are some areas of his game, obviously, that he needs to work on. But once again, I think it's fair right now to say hot and cold because some of the flashes, like the one we're watching on the screen right now, can be really, really impressive as well.
Yeah, I think notably his perimeter defense, his feet could get definitely a little heavy upon like having to flip his hip and guards. Like here, Josh Primo, who, I mean, all issues aside, is a talented basketball player. And, like if you're going to give him that much room and kind of be standing straight up in a game that is within reach. I mean, it's a 7-point game with a minute left. Like this is a game that you need to be like defending. And like, obviously you don't want Tyler Smith to be checked up against Josh Primo
regularly
all the time. Right. But like he has the physical tools that he should be able to at least impede his progress to where it's like, you're just going to give up basically a dunk here. I mean, nobody's rotating on the weak side or anything. It's terrible defensive possession all around by the Ignite there, but like, let's get a little bit more aggressive, I guess would be the word I would use to at least make him work for this. He reaches in for the foul at the end, so, doesn't give up the layup, or the dunk. But yeah, the feet can get a little worrisome when it's like coming to switching onto guards. And I don't think he's somebody who can play flat. I think he has to kind of shade a guy to a side because I don't think he can kind of, at the moment, I don't think his agility to flip his hips quickly to one side when the guard is dictating what direction he's going. And he's like dropped in space all the way at the perimeter. I don't know if he has that kind of quickness, but because I do think he should have that quickness. And maybe he'll get there. But right now, when it comes to like switching on guards, like he's not somebody that I'm like, oh, he's going to guard 1 through 5 or 2 through 5. Like I think that he's right now, like maybe some 3s and some 4s are really where he's at. But where I did like him, and I thought he was much better, was off the ball. I thought he was much more consistent off of the ball, and because I think that he's somebody who does talk a lot. This is a great possession here. You already see it. You see he's calling out like the stagger. He's talking. He's going to come tag Sar. Now He's going to come close out to the corner, drags him into the help, and then finishes it off with a block on Sar as the clock is expiring. So like this is like, hey man, there's a lot of good stuff in this clip. Like this is what's going to keep you on the floor from a coaching perspective where it's like, all right, he's going to at least get our defensive principles, our defensive scheme. He's not going to hurt us off the ball, at least. Like this is a really, really great possession from a young kid.
No, I'm with you, Corey. I agree. But even on this one, like when he closes out, like, you could see kind of
a little high.
The limitation. Yeah, a little high, a little limitation with the feet. But I'm with you, Corey. Like it's stuff like this that does get you, it encourages you is what it is. And I think here's the thing, Corey, you said you could probably guard 3s and 4s with added strength, maybe a little small ball 5, right? Not regularly, but in a second unit type of thing, maybe he could.
I want him to.
Exactly. Correct. That's a good way to put it. I think we want him to. I think we're hopefully projecting him to eventually be able to play with 5s, but that's going to come with more strength and more experience and all that stuff. But definitely, like out on the perimeter, it's hard to watch sometimes. To just be totally honest, we don't try to be too overly negative here, but it is something that he's going to have to continue to work on because he does get caught flat-footed quite a lot. and it's something that isn't. And here on this possession, he just kind of gets bodied. And so adding the strength, working, as you mentioned, the hip mobility and, having quicker feet, getting in the stance, moving those feet a little bit better. I think all that will definitely benefit him for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about that. But even still, he's a really intriguing prospect, really fun prospect, a guy that I'm really happy he's finding success, because he's a guy that I had high expectations for coming into the year, and he's doing a good job living up to them. So I'm interested to see how he does develop some of the defensive parts of his game. Like if he can, start to, make some more interesting reads as a passer, the more he's used in, different kind of actions. So there's still a lot to watch out for with Tyler Smith. But this is a guy who I think is having a good year, despite a season in which I think this G League Ignite team is going to have, a decent amount of struggles, because they just don't have that guard play, that steady guard play that the last couple of Ignite teams have had, right? Like they don't have any of those, kind of top tier guard prospects. I think London Johnson's a good player, and I think he's been out of the lineup recently, but they're coming from Scoot. They had Jalen Green, you had Jaden Hardy and Dyson Daniels, right? Like these are guys who are, had a lot of success. So, but it's going to be fun, and he's doing a great job. So next guy on the docket. And I honestly, I don't think that we have spoken about Nikola Topic between the two of us really at all. So I'm kind of excited to hear your opinion about him.
This is going to be a tricky one, Corey. As you mentioned, we haven't even uttered his name just between the two of us. And I don't know what that is. Do we only like American players? No, that is not the case. But for whatever reason, he's just never come up, right? And I think this is how I feel right now, Corey. Obviously, he's getting a lot of hype. I think it was Gavoni who's given him a couple of tweets out there, kind of talking about the nice performances he's had. I think the most important place to start is, Mega Basketball. Their jerseys continue to be incredible, and they are incredibly fun to watch and to look at on a screen. But okay, the first thing that I wrote with Topic is smooth operator. And I think that's a good place to start. I think that is what I see him as right now. I think offensively, we're going to get into all the nitty gritty. I think there's a lot to like, but then I also have some question marks too. So let me kind of pump the brakes there before we get too crazy. But I like him. I like him more than maybe I thought I would, but I also have some question marks.
Okay. I think that's fair enough. Before we get into the film, let's give a little background on our friend Nikola Topic. So as you said, KK Mega point guard, listed at 6'5". I think he's got a long neck. You're the body guy.
Yeah.
Good posture, long neck guy. So he's averaging 19.5 points a game, 7 assists, 3.6 rebounds, 1.2 steals, 3.1 turnovers. So over a 2-to-1 assist turnover ratio, scoring the ball really well. Shooting splits of 54.3, 35.9, 86. Pretty good. So that's a 65.4 true shooting, 59.8 effective field goal percentage. His draft stock based on the early big board / mocks that are out. No ceilings. He came in at 23rd on our top 60. The Athletic has him at 13. ESPN has him at 11. Bleacher Report has him at 9. That's an IPO stock price of 14 for Nikola Topic. So is that too high, too low, or is it just right?
For my taste, Corey, it's a little high, dude. And my tune might change. But at this point in time, I don't have Topic that high. I can tell you where I have him. I have him at 24. So 24, 14, there's a bit of a gap there, right? So if I were to say anything else, I'd be lying. I do think it's a little high for my taste. Once again, we're going to get into the eval and I'll ask my questions then. But of course, I get it. I get it. He's putting up big numbers. You watch the tape. He's a really interesting offensive player. I totally understand. But at the same time, Corey, he's listed at 6'5". I don't think he's 6'5". I think he's lying. Who knows what type of shenanigans they're pulling over there. They're lying. He's not 6'5". But anyway, it's a little bit rich for me. I feel more comfortable with him in the 20s right now. But hey, I've changed my mind before. I could change it again. So right now I feel too high.
So regarding his height, I think there are times that he certainly, doesn't necessarily look 6'5". Like he doesn't look short by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah. But I remember when it was Nikola Jovic's draft. And I was talking to Mike Schmitz about Jovic, and he's like, what you have to realize about that league is that everybody is huge there. So, like, if it's a big league and, Topic might just look a little smaller than those guys proportionally, but he might actually be that legit, 6'5" or whatever. I've seen him listed at 6'6" even. Now, this is interesting, and I love when this happens when we're far apart on a prospect, because Albert, I fucking love this guy. I have him, I think, at 7 right now. I've moved him up to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
He definitely has his warts, and, that is for sure. We'll definitely talk about those. But mostly just because I think that this class right now is very... Like Justin Edwards had a pretty rough game on a big stage. DJ Wagner had a rough game on the big stage, because there's so much up in the air. And this dude's producing like crazy. He's big. He's got feel. I'm just in on him right now. So I think when you watch him, the first thing that you're kind of going to notice is twofold. You're either going to start with him as a playmaker, or you're going to start with him as a finisher. And I kind of think his finishing kind of opens up the playmaking, because his ability to get into the paint consistently and draw the defense and collapse the defense allows so many, of his passing angles. He's also got great vision, which we'll show later. But I want to start with his finishing, just because for a guy who weirdly looks stiff, he's kind of bendy. Mm-hmm. Like he's got some bend. But he plays with different pace. He's got start stop. And when he's running a pick and roll, man, freezes. And now right there, he's unimpeded with the little soft finger roll. But when he freezes guys, man, and he's getting downhill, like he's quick. He's got a quick first step. He's got some stuff to him.
Over the course of our history of doing this podcast, we've had moments like this where we start off being on different ends of a player, but a lot of times we end up somewhere in the middle, Corey. And yeah. I already feel us kind of meeting in the middle a little bit, because you decided to start with his finishing, and that was a part of his game that I was actually really impressed with. All the pick and roll stuff, obviously, is really fun with him. But okay, let me get into what I wanted to say. His left hand is awesome. It's really, really good. He's a guy that is completely unafraid of contact, which I really, really enjoyed. He's a guy that he's not, primed Wade and Wade and trying to go through the chest of everybody, but he's not afraid to go in there and to mix it up with the trees. As you mentioned, incredible at changing pace. He also can rip an in and out move so nice with both hands, which is really, really fun and interesting, and adds like that nice little wrinkle to his game. This was one of my favorite moves, actually, that he pulled right here, that quick little crossover that just to get into the lane and to leave the guy just in his dust. The one flaw that I had, I thought his touch at the rim kind of it was not as perfect as I thought it was going to be, which there it is, right? My expectations for him were pretty high. Some of the floaters I thought were kind of bricky, was what I wanted to say.
That is a weakness, the in-between game.
Correct. Some of the in-between stuff I think needs to work. But when he's like getting all the way to the basket, the variance and the versatility he has in ways that he can finish either through or around contact, really goddamn impressive. And once again, I just want to say one more time, he's got a really goddamn good left hand. And that stuff is important to me, especially for when we're talking about like a 6'5" guard like this.
I mean, this is a good example of him using his left hand and finishing through contact, because he does the little same hand, same foot finish there, dips his shoulder in, creates the space.
These are tough guys too, Corey.
He's finishing 71.1% at the rim in the half court. Not even because he's getting out in transition. 71.1% in the half court. That is bonkers.
I think he's in my top 5 now.
Yes.
What? That's freaking nuts. But it's on the tape. It's there, Corey.
Yeah. No doubt about it. And like, all right, so he's so like that step through right at the end.
Yeah.
Right at the like he's so good at understanding where he is on the court and understanding where everybody else is on the court. So like he's so good at like slithering through tight spaces. That step through, if he doesn't step through in the right spot, he's gonna like twist his ankle. Because both of the defenders are almost like have their feet like interlocked in the paint. He like steps over and through after this turn here and then goes up and finishes with his left hand. He's just so good at little stuff like that. And that's why he's finishing pretty much every single thing that he takes to the rim. Like he's good at finishing through contact. He's good at manipulating the pick and roll. He's like, he loves to reject stuff. Right. And it doesn't really matter what he does. When he gets into the paint, like, I'm going to move you. Like, look at that's a big dude.
Yeah.
And he dipped that left shoulder in and moved him in the mask.
Corey, I have the comp for Nikola Topic. Whoever ends up writing about him for our website, they have to mention his name. I'm telling you, it's the perfect 1-for-1. Le'Veon Bell is my guy because for maybe
only you.
No, for real though, with Le'Veon Bell, the way that Le'Veon would time things, he'd get skinny, the way that he could burst, but also wasn't the fastest guy, the way that he could manipulate defenders to get to where he needed to go to, that's Nikola Topic, man. Like that, the one where you showed, right? That little step through at the end. Think about how quick he needs to be about making that decision to get skinny in between those two defenders there. That's really, really special stuff. And then once again, he's completely unafraid of contact. He embraces it even. And that clip before where he went straight through the chest of that other guy. And this is a big guy he's going up against too. Like, yeah, dude, Le'Veon Bell, whoever's writing about Topic, Le'Veon Bell, trust.
I think it might be you at some point.
Yeah, maybe.
But you know what? It oddly makes sense, right? Because he kind of, when he's got that forward downhill momentum, like he's so smooth that it kind of looks like a running back, like trying to find seams, like right here, he's snaking. And you know what he's so good at that's really crafty? He's really good at using the Gortat screens that these guys set like right near the basket. So like, you know, coming off, he's gonna snake, and then the little Gortat thing, and he's got the extension finishes at the I don't know. Nobody could stop him from getting to wherever he wants on the court, man.
Yeah, no, Corey, I'm with you. And it's important. Like, he's not the biggest athlete, right? He's not this, crazy athletic dude, but this is the type of IQ stuff, pace stuff, savvy. This is the type of stuff that Corey, like both of us were well into our 30s, but if we were talking to like young hoopers today, it would be like, watch this guy. Dude, he's not running through people. He's not running past people, but actually he kind of is because, he knows how to use his speed strategically, right? It's not just one speed straight line. He can twist and snake and do all different kinds of things.
He gets so low to the ground a lot of times when he's changing directions or
so good.
Yeah, he's so a beast getting to the rim. Now, if he had an in-between game.
Yep, there it is.
Then we'd really be cooking with gas. Yeah. So here, I actually, when I watched this possession for the first time, I was like, oh, I love what's happening here because, he's running the pick and roll, showing a little bit of the handle, getting the guy in jail. But it's just that little floater touch. It's just off, man. Like, and he's so good at getting to the rim. He hasn't really attempted a lot of floaters, So like there's also variance there. Like maybe it ultimately like kind of gets better. But right now it's just not a big part of his game. And I think it's something he should be working on because, if you're going to be a guy who's mainly getting to the rim, it's going to be a lot harder to consistently do that at the NBA level when defenses figure you out and have the scout on you. So, but the dude gets to the rim.
Yeah, Corey, I think, that in between stuff is definitely what's probably keeping him out of like the very, very top of this class right now. But I think what you said is important, right? Small sample size, right? Maybe it's something that he continues to do throughout that season out there. And also an encouraging thing is like the shooting numbers are good with him, right? So it's not
Yeah.
that we don't think he has touch. We know he has touch. He's shooting it really well. That true shooting percentage is great. The free throw line, he's shooting 86% from the free throw line. So
Yeah.
he's clearly a shooter with good touch. So I think with more time and more work and practice at this type of stuff, I think he'll only get better. So I'm with you. It was the biggest word that I had for him on the offense side of the ball. Yeah, and that's not even like we haven't even talked about his passing stuff,
No. But before we get into the passing stuff, actually, you know what? I think the passing stuff makes sense to do now just because, like when you can get into the paint, like he can, you can run a pick and roll and hopefully make some passes. There's going to be some options there because the defense is absolutely going to collapse on you, right? So, and I mean, that's what happens so often. And what I like about him as a passer is like I think he's very creative. I think he's awesome in pick and rolls. Like I think that he runs such a good pick and roll, but he passes like out of live dribbles, and the way he passes out of live dribbles too is really impressive because he passes when the ball is coming up from the dribble and it barely touches his hand there.
Yeah.
Left hand, live dribble
scoop
from
pass, yeah.
from the perimeter, man. Like Stephon Marbury,
Yep.
like New York City Hooper shit here. But literally, like it happens so quick and it's so hard to guard because it's underhand because he's picking it up from the dribble. And he's done that a couple of times that I've seen him do that. So this is something that he's super, super comfortable with. Like that was the left hand. Absolutely sick. Probably one of the, most sneaky, sick passes you're going to see. And then this one, he's hitting his roller out of the live dribble in a very similar fashion. Maybe not as from the top of the key, but out of that live dribble, right hand hits the roller. And he had such good chemistry with his bigs. If those guys are rolling, he's going to hit them.
Yeah. Also, we have to note that's a really hilarious goaltending right there. that's just out of spite right there. But no, Corey, I'm with you. The passing with him, the offhand whip pass is just unbelievable. He can make really high level reads. He sees the floor really well. The timing, the touch, the weak side stuff, all that stuff is awesome. And as you mentioned, like look at that one, dude. Just perfect.
Over the
Only
top.
the big can catch that. Yeah.
Simple.
But the pick and roll stuff, just the timing, the pace, the patience, the everything, man, the physicality. I hate this, man. I've had him lower, and now I feel it inside of me, him just flying up my draft board right now. But no, Corey, the passing with him is really impressive. And I think it's important to note that once again, like the thing that I really liked about him was just like the pace that he plays with. And it goes with the way that he attacks the rim, but also the way that he runs his offense and he runs a pick and roll and all that stuff is really important as if he's going to be projected as an eventual like number one option, kind of running your offense type of guy. That stuff is really important, and I think he has it in him.
Yeah, I'd let him run the Chicago Bulls offense right now. But like, I loved this possession too.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all love like guys who can paint the corners, and obviously he can do that. But this is such a crafty pass. There's so much nuance, and it's the lost art of that you don't see the American-born prospects always do. Where right here, he is selling that pass to the roll, man.
Yeah.
Like he is looking at the big. He's got that ball. Like he is about to fire that thing right to the big. And so the tagger, the low man right now,
he's in jail. He's
under the rim in the paint, he has to commit, right, and step out to tag that big just in case the pass goes through. And it's just one step out of position now. So when he does make that corner pass, he's just too late.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That low man is in hell, dude.
Yeah.
Like that's classic, like Aaron Rodgers looking off the safety and just finding that, beating the cover two perfectly. Like it's unbelievable stuff what Topic can do, man. Like that's a really high level pass. Like we talk about high level reads. That's a high level read. And it's not just because he hit the weak side. It's the way that he manipulated things with his eyes, right?
Yep.
That initial look plus pump is really great. And then this one, God, what are we talking about? Can we watch this one again?
Yeah, of course.
Oh
and
my
this is kind of
goodness.
where you see like, oh, maybe, he's got the height to kind of see over. So, he draws two, and it's the positioning there on the pass. Like,
But Corey, even the big on this one, look, it looks like he's gonna just settle in the short roll, and then he makes like a secondary cut off of this. Like he's like, oh, I'm right here. Whoop.
And he leads him forward with the momentum so he can get to the rim too. He, like he's not throwing it to him, he's throwing it in front.
Good God.
It's like some quarterback shit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But that's a nice little. I really like that little cut from the big too, though.
Yeah, the bigs. I like the bigs, man.
Mhm.
Plavicic. I have no idea how to say these guys' names.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yankovic, right? I think one of them. Yeah.
There's another Jovic.
Yeah.
But the bigs do a really good job of, getting into the right positions. Here's another beautiful pass, weak side hit. Like he's got all of those advanced reads in his bag. So he's going to bring the ball up the court, push the pace a little bit. Maybe, you know who he looks like?
Who?
You know who he moves like? I can't believe, like, some people are going to be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Other people are probably going to think I'm just straight up blasphemous. He's like modern Bob Cousy. Dude, like he looks like if this was in black and white, you'd be like, oh yeah, this was filmed in like the 1950s.
I could see that, dude.
Because he's like upright and
He's so upright. That's why, yeah.
He like, it's like he's one of those dudes that JJ Redick would go on a rant with. Like he could barely, he's barely dribble, but like
you could even see him like dribbling down on one knee with the Harlem
right.
No, I see it though. I see it, but look at that pass. This is unreal, man. Screen, rescreen,
come back. Yep.
Boom. Where are you going? Weak
mid air.
Good God.
He's got the jump pass too.
Pinpoint leads him to the corner more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, dog. Look at this.
And he gets so deep into the paint with his drives that like he's able to do the drop offs and like those like straight up kickouts from the paint area. So here, all right, turn the back a little bit. Comfortable with the left hand. Let's get the ball back. Come off the screen behind the back. Whoop, take that wide angle. Whoop.
Oh, God. That first
little drop off
in little Spain, right?
Well, I mean,
oh God, look
yep.
at that.
There's the Spain action, and then a little drop off.
Oh my God, good job.
He's sick, man. We
didn't even talk about his outside shooting, Corey.
No, we're going to do that right now.
Oh God, Jesus Christ.
So his shooting is weird to me.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously he's got touch. He's shooting 36% from the 3-point line. All right, 86% from the free throw line, and then 36% from the 3-point line. So like, there's obviously stuff there. Here, I think it looks good up top. I think his base is a little wonky.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is kind of like when I look at him as a shooter, it's like his shot prep is what's bad. Like I'm not worried about him necessarily as a shooter, but I also am not like this dude could shoot. Like he's a shot maker to me, not a shooter.
I kind of like that one. I thought off the catch, sometimes his dip was kind of too much. And I'm with you on the base. I like his shot better off the catch than off the dribble. But then also sometimes off the dribble, it looked really good too. But Corey, I think the point that you're making is really important. He may not be a dead eye shooter, but he's going to hit enough of them.
Mhm.
Kind of like Brandon Roy in that way, where Brandon Roy may not have been Reggie Miller as a shooter, but he's going to hit a shit ton of them. Not to say I'm comparing Topic to Brandon Roy.
Well, I just compared him to Bob Cousy, so
there. We're doing things today, man. We're on a sick one.
So here's my thing with his shot.
Yeah.
I think his shot prep is really bad.
Okay.
I think he's got that upright body, and I think he's kind of like his catch and shoot stuff is kind of like pencil like. So like when you're shooting, right? He doesn't have like that fighting stance that you want to be in, so you're balanced.
Yeah.
And he's never like stepping or hopping into his shot. So like let's get real nerdy here. His like kinematic or kinetic chain, right, is there's just nothing coming from his lower body most of the time, or a lot of the times on these spot up shots, because he's standing upright. There's very little bend and there's no momentum to carry from his legs up through his upper body. So like the chain is broken right away. So I think that like he needs reps working with like, Chip England, and like all of a sudden this dude is like, oh, he's shooting 38% from three, like in the NBA on high volume. Like it's doable. I think his upper body is okay. Sometimes he does like the flick, the snake bite on the release. It almost in a lot of ways, it reminds me of like what Şengün's shot looked like in Turkey. Like where he would kind of flick the ball a little bit sometimes. But I'm not out on him as a shooter. Obviously, like I have him inside of my top 10. Like, I think that he's a guy who is like very willing to be like, all right, well, you want to go under? Like, okay, I'm gonna pull it.
But
like,
also
knock it down.
Yeah, and also Corey, I did want to say, like, he also shoots it from really deep.
Yes.
Like he makes it a point to like shoot from the fucking. He shoots it really, really deep, which I like.
What's
I
not to like about NBA range?
Exactly. It's going to be a big part of his game. But I'm with you, man. Like but also like the numbers are good, right? Like you mentioned, 36% is still good, and it may not be perfect now, but depending on where he ends up, it might get really, really good. And then we're talking about an all-star, to be honest, maybe, right? Like if he is going to shoot it that consistently from outside and just is, perpetually going to be walking into the rim, making high-level reads for himself and for his teammates, we're talking about a really dynamic, scary offensive player. And also like unselfish too, which we mentioned in the previous segment. But no, the jumper I like, don't love, like, I think is fair.
Yeah. I'm agnostic towards his jumper, I guess is how I would put it. Like I could see both options being on the table. But ultimately, like I think it's enough of a threat that like it's not going to prevent him from getting to where he wants on the floor.
I don't know. In my head, I was like Jehovah's Witness. I don't know what's going on, but okay, yeah. I like the shot. I like the shot. We got to talk about his defense, though. We do.
Yeah. It's time.
It's time. This is Corey. You know what? We've done this so long now. We just know. Like, when I'm into something or not into something, and I know when you're into something or not. And the way that you just led into that, we're there. We're on the same page here.
Yeah. So like, we talk about him being upright. I think this is where it hurts him. It's on this side of the floor. Now, like this possession here, I want to start with a possession in which somebody drills a shot over him, but also it's like, pretty good. Like not bad. Like he's in front of the guy. He's low. I think he plays with effort, but like he doesn't play with physicality. He's never really dictating. He doesn't like really cause a lot of like turnovers or generate a lot of turnovers. Right. Like, and I think, probably carrying so much of the load. He's probably using the defensive side of the ball to rest a little bit. And again, this is like, okay, possession, like good shot, like, do it again. But there are a lot of possessions where you're just like, yeah.
So Corey, the
Yeah.
first thing, the first thing I wrote is I saw a lot of walking, man, and like I was just like, hey, let's do less walking here. There were a lot of possessions where he was just kind of walking around. But Corey, when he is locked in, he can be pretty decent, and I do want to give him that credit. Like, yeah, he can be kind of a bit like pesty sometimes with his defense. But another thing I wrote here, there are a couple times I got him caught. He was caught ball watching. Did not love that. I thought that like my main takeaway is he will not be known for his defense.
I think that's a really nice way when to talk about a prospect who can't play defense. He will not be known for his defense.
It's just, you're not going to be like Nikola Topic, headline, great defense. It's just not going to happen, dude. It's just not there for him. But like at the same time, like once again, he did have his moments, but overall,
Right here,
like, a lot.
This was the moment.
Just put this on a loop and we can deceive the masses. But no, for sure. Like, once again, like I thought the focus kind of came and went. But Corey, the main point that you made that I really agree with is I do feel like he is carrying such a load offensively that defensively sometimes it's like when you have a really long day and you come home and you just kind of zone out looking at your cat. Like, it's one of those, man. Like, you're just staring at your cat for no reason at all, just because you need a mental break. Sometimes that's what it felt like with Topic on the defensive side of the ball. And I think, Corey, that point that you made is a really important one, because if you just put his defense in a vacuum, it could lead to you going, what the fuck? But if you kind of look at it holistically and you put all the pieces together, it kind of makes sense too. So I wanted to kill him for his defense, but
Look, I also think getting stronger, because he's super young.
yes.
Like, he's one of the youngest players in the draft. So I also think getting stronger is going to help him, because like my dude dies on screens, man. Like,
yes.
like he gets buried by screens. So, a combination of like, he's maybe not the most fleet of foot, on the defensive side of the ball. He doesn't have the greatest length. And also, like, he's playing in this pro league, getting screened to death by giant, Russian dudes, or wherever, Serbian dudes,
stone men.
That doesn't seem fun from that side. But like, he's tough, right? And it's weird because he's so willing to handle the physicality offensively when he's got momentum and going into guys. So it's not like he's soft or anything, right? Like, I think it's when he's surprised rather than like generating the force. Like, he kind of will die on it because he's not like ready for the physicality yet.
Also, very simplistically, Corey, like on the offensive side, you get points for that. On defense, not so much. But no, I'm with you, man. Like, that's something I had in my notes. Like, absolutely gets demolished consistently on screens, and then like he comes off of them as if he has CTE. Sometimes, like, he just has no idea where he's going after the screens. So, yeah, a lot of work to be done. Won't be known for his defense. It's a fair evaluation.
Nikola Topic. Le'Veon Bell, and not known for his defense.
Take that in the first round. Good.
Now, here's another thing that I'm going to say out loud.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is the big difference then in like looking at him as a prospect between him and Collier?
Oh,
like, what's the sell for Collier over him? And I have them right in the same tier. What would be the sell to have Collier over him, kind of with the understanding that Topic is a much better decision maker, equally as big of a threat downhill, and I probably buy the shot more. Now, I think we could say that Collier's defensive potential is probably higher.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, I gotta think that they're like worst case in the same tier right now
Corey,
because they're very similar offensively as far as strengths.
The reason why, Corey, this question is hard is because something I've been thinking about recently, or like with my own evals, is sometimes I weigh the defense too much, where I can have two prospects that are similar skill wise on the offense side of the ball, but I give one prospect too much credit because they're better on defense. And I don't want to make that mistake here between Collier and Topic, where clearly Collier is going to have a higher ceiling on the defense side of the ball. But we just kind of fell all over ourselves talking about Topic's offensive game. And offense is very important in the NBA. And him being able to be a lead guard, get to wherever he wants on the floor and shoot it from outside with high level, almost elite level playmaking type of stuff in the pick and roll, which is, a very, very common set in the NBA. I think you're asking a really good question, dude. I initially thought you were going to bring up someone like DJ Wagner or something, but I think Collier is the better name here because he's that freaking good.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not gonna bring up DJ Wagner because I just
same.
they're even in the same conversation.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't relish the fact that DJ Wagner is struggling. It's just I don't think anybody who has seen him over the last year in any of these settings is really surprised. I know that there was good feedback or whatever about him, like in practices and scrimmages and stuff. And I think that's great that he's a competitive kid and, he's got a good frame and he's, quick and all that. But the NBA is about a bucket and my dude likes to shoot, but doesn't do it efficiently. You got to be an efficient bucket now. My dude, Cam Thomas, is an efficient bucket, and this dude's, will be in and out of the lineup, and he's doing it efficiently. DJ Wagner's got to be more of a point guard, man. He's got to be a pass first point guard. And I don't know if he's wired like that. I just don't. Short guards have it rough.
I mean, his dad wasn't either, right? Not to blame his dad, but kind of runs in the family is what it seems like. So I'm with you on that. Also, I don't love his frame. I like that he's added muscle and stuff like that, but he seems kind of short to me, with his limbs. His arms look kind of short to me. Just not a big fan. But no, Corey, I think the point that you made about Topic and Collier is a really interesting one. And after we've just had a 30+ minute conversation about his game, obviously he's going to be a lot higher on my board than where I have him now, which is the fun part of these evals, man. Sometimes we just figure it out.
Yeah, sometimes we talk it out and discuss it. And with the Collier thing, I'm not even saying that Topic is the better prospect necessarily. I'm just I think it's an interesting parallel between the two guys because I think stylistically they share a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Even if, you wouldn't think so because typically we compare white dudes to other white dudes, right? But yeah, man, I don't know. I like Topic a lot. I think he's a lot of fun. I think that he's, got a really good chance to at least go in the lottery right now. And I really think he can climb if some of these freshmen continue to struggle. So it's going to be interesting to see how that ultimately plays out.
Oh, this was a fun one, dude. We had a lot of fun talking about these guys.
Hell yeah.
But Topic specifically is going to rise for sure.
Yeah. I think Tyler Smith has a chance to rise as well. Not as high, because he's not a creator. But if he keeps up his efficiency and knocks down threes at a high level and continues to, be a guy who racks up steals and blocks and is disruptive on the defensive end, I think he's got a good shot to climb up and be a top 20 pick. So two fun guys, man.
Yeah, this was a good one.
Hell yeah. All right, Albert. Tell the people what you have going on, because I think if you are listening to this on the podcast feed, there's a chance that Albert's piece is already out.
Yeah. Wrote a piece about Alex Tuhey of the NBL's Next Star program, playing for the Sydney Kings, a guy that I've had a bit of a relationship with since back in April. He did a pod with us. I've been talking to him ever since. And I kind of sent him some questions because the time difference was so tough for us to do a pod, and which we're still going to figure out. We're going to have him on the draft deck with us soon, but I sent him some questions. He gave me some great answers, which I was able to put into the piece. And so, Tui's a guy that I really like, man. A guy that I just continue to really, really enjoy. He's a different player from a Jaime Jaquez Jr., but look at the effect that Jaquez is having already in his rookie season. The role that he's playing for
balling
the
out.
Heat. He's balling out, and I feel like over time Tui can have that type of role in the NBA. A guy who is very versatile. Like that's the name of the game when it comes to Alex Tui. Great NBA wing size, can even play up to the 4. I think he's only going to get stronger. He's already pretty physical as it is. A guy that was really fun to write about was Alex Tui. You can find me on socials at Alberto Gim on Twitter and at GTGNBA on Instagram is where you can find me. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I just dropped a piece on Connor Essegian, who I guess is going through a weird thing with his coach right now. It's kind of weird timing for that to come out, but Connor retweeted the article, so he liked it. He's dealing with a back thing right now, but he's a really fun prospect. He was one of the best freshmen in the Big Ten last year. Just an absolute sniper and with a really versatile shooting skill set, some on the ball juice. And I was hoping to watch his sophomore campaign because I think he's a sneaky draft guy. If he also, like Topic, can figure out the defensive side of the ball and get stronger and stuff like that. But kid could score the rock, and that's valuable. So you can check that out at NoCeilingsNBA.com. You can follow me at Corey Tulliba on Twitter/X, NBA Draft Dude. Elsewhere, No Ceilings NBA on YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, all that good stuff. If you are watching this live or on replay, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on the podcast feed, make sure that you rate, review, and share. Until next time, you